article titled College After Special Forces,
which was written back in April 21st, 2014 by Blake Miles. So here I am sitting in the office of my business department counselor, discussing my degree path and time to completion. I started college courses full-time during the fall of 2011. As it stands now, I'm not able to graduate until the spring of 2015. Based on total credits transferred from the military and the classes I've already taken, I currently have a grand total of 141 credits completed. Only three of my military credit hours transferred to my bachelor's degree. I remembered why my blood pressure spikes every time I sit in the counselor's office. I brush aside the gnawing feeling that I'm wasting my time with what I equate to grinding my face on the pavement in order to prove that I'm capable of grinding my face on the pavement. I'm not sure how many times I've heard the variation of the following phrase: just knock out the degree. Employers only want to see that you have the determination to make it through the college system. Right, determination. Blood pressure rising again. I've heard of this determination thing. That's sort of like when you volunteer to jump out of planes, physically destroy your body for extended periods of time in order to prove your worth and become a member of a small team. That sounds intriguing. I would love to hear more. Are there any brochures or pamphlets I could read? Good Lord, I need to get my mind back to the counselor's office. Need to focus. So I have approximately 10 classes left that I need to take. She begins going through the list so I can determine which time slot and day would be the best to take. She informs me that I will need to complete at least 3 credit hours of a foreign language. I agree that taking a foreign language should be a requirement for any degree. It's an excellent tool to have in your toolbox, and learning how to learn another language is an even greater skill. Fortunately, I know all of this because I've been through language training. Now, for those of you who don't know, all Special Forces soldiers are required to attend language and cultural training for their area of operations. I learned Tagalog, the language of the Philippines, while attending the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center in school. Classes began at 0900 and typically ran through 1630 or 4:30 in the afternoon, minus lunchtime. Classes were 5 times a day. Tagalog was a 6-month course. This comes out to a roughly 845 hours of class time. Apparently, my credits transferred awarded me 3 credit hours for this training. Unfortunately, they were labeled as a military undistributed credit, quote unquote. In other words, those credits didn't mean a damn thing in the eyes of the school, particularly for waiving a language requirement. My blood pressure starts approaching David Banner-like levels. I asked the counselor, who is genuinely trying to help me out, is there any way I can have that language requirement waived? I keep my well-developed mask of indifference affixed to my face in an attempt to avoid showing a glimpse of the general-purpose rage that is building inside me. She explains that I'll need to get a transcript or course description and plead my case to the business department chair. Okay, another hoop to jump through. I move on. She then comes to the requirement course titled International Communications. The class description reads as follows, quote, "This course examines international communication, global business etiquette, and it teaches cultural sensitivity and awareness based on the study of the interfaces of language, culture, and communication," unquote. She reads this out loud just for my information, not knowing that with each word, the cynical part of my brain is doing a serious LOL, while the analytical part of my brain is calculating which objects in my immediate vicinity would break into the most pieces the quickest. I let out a little chuckle. As she looks at me inquisitively, I calmly attempt to explain the nuances of the Army Special Forces job in 30 words or less, and attempt to convince her that the description she just read is nearly a word-for-word regurgitation of one component of the job I held in the military. She responds with a vacant stare, which seems to say, "Okay, what do you want me to do about it?" I know she's just doing her job and trying to help me. I completely understand that the average civilian has neither the understanding nor the inclination to appreciate, in the literal sense, what certain military jobs entail. I get that. This knowledge didn't make my blood pressure go down, though. Same thing, you'll need to get a course description and plead your case, but I can tell you this class is important, and it's only taught in the fall semester, she tells me flatly. It's less likely that you'll be able to get this one waived. All right, I breathe calmly, keeping the adrenaline from spiking. What else is there? Market research, recruiting doesn't account apparently. Business writing class, My heart. Creative writing class? My uterus. Awesome. Whatever. I went into autopilot and agreed with whatever needed to be done. I thank her for her time and advice on how to get out of the classes I've already taken. As I walk out of the office, I can't help but think of all the other veterans who just got fed up with this sort of thing, only to walk away from school and never come back. There's a strong sense of despair that begins to take hold when you realize that what was once a major part of your life no longer has any tangible value, aside from the experience itself. Here's a message for our educators and employers in this country. You want to help our nation's veterans? Maybe some of our training is actually more valuable than time spent in your classrooms. Maybe my entire military career, along with 24 months I spent training, in addition to the 7 years afterwards, should translate to more than 33 credit hours. Here's a message from the heart to the American Council on Education. Whatever the case may be, your system is broken and it needs to be fixed. I really hope someone from ACE really reads this. For all the folks out there who believe that the purpose of college should be to prove to employers that you have the determination necessary to graduate, if the only purpose of a college education is to prove someone is capable of dedication, there are far cheaper methods that don't take 4 years and thousands of dollars to accomplish that task. The Latin root of the word education is duco, which means to lead or guide, not jump through a hoop like a trained dolphin. I'm not sure how to best conclude this post, so I'll try to keep it simple. There's plenty of anger in the veteran community, though most of us don't know why or where it's actually directed. Often the anger is turned inwards or onto those whom we love the most. I've been searching for the source of this anger for a while now, and I know I've identified at least a few sources, and this is one of them. We're thanked for our service, we're looked up to for our accomplishments, we're praised for our sacrifices, but deep down, what we're looking for the most is to be valued for our experiences and our abilities. When it's assumed that the blood, sweat, and time we've spent in a pursuit of a certain skill or knowledge is not on par with time spent by someone sitting in an air-conditioned classroom learning the same skill, the implied lesson is that our blood and sweat is less valuable. When we're told that we just need to play the game to earn a piece of paper in order for our employers to value our life experiences, the implied lesson is that a piece of paper is more valuable than volunteering to miss out on the birth of our children, seeing our brothers killed in foreign lands, or having our bodies broken. I recognize the value of a college education. I enjoy the process of learning immensely, but I also value life experience. Most importantly, I know without a doubt that life experience is infinitely more valuable than skills learned in the classroom. I only wish that certain civilians in positions of power believe this as well. An update. It turns out that the military has recently made available a new valuation system to recommend credits for military training. The Joint Service Transcript website is available at jst.doded.mil. This would have been nice to know a while ago, and I hope it helps me a bit in regards to giving me more credit hours in college. That said, my time in the Special Forces qualification course is valued at 28 credit hours. SEER school is worth a whopping 1 credit hour for survival skills and outdoor pursuits. My cynical mind is doing a laugh out loud again. I personally valued SEER school as worth an infinite amount of credit hours. I got more than a month than I could have possibly received any classroom in a lifetime. But then again, what the hell do I know?
So it's been about 7 years since I've written this article, and a number of things have changed. A number of things have stayed the same, and I've gotten, some heat for it. I've gotten a lot of attention for it. It led to me getting invited to a TED Talks, which has got 225,000 views, and it pretty much changed the trajectory of my life looking back at it. I'd figure I'd talk about it a little bit and try to get something coherent that other people could understand and, take some lessons from, or at least get some value out of. A lot of the things that have changed since then, I haven't known about since I've pretty much gotten out of the college education world. Once I got my degree, I just kind of bounced, and I didn't want to. There wasn't anything left for me to do there, it seemed like. But now I find myself at the Catalyst program, so I'm back in the college education universe and right back in the heat of things. So I figured I'd come in and talk a little bit about what this article meant in hindsight, and hopefully what other people can take from it. So in reading back through it, I think one of the more important things that I've found as a veteran is the maturity of a veteran. As you separate, as you get out, there's a maturity process. There's a maturing process you got to go through, and it's just like getting out of high school, just like getting out of college. You mature as you move along. Same thing for veterans, and I think one important component of that is that you have to stop caring what other veterans think about what you say and what you do, because if you don't get rid of that deep concern, like, oh my gosh, what are other veterans going to say about this, then it's going to impact how you interact with the world, and it's going to confine you. You're going to be restricted in what you say, what you think, what you do, and that might turn into a lost opportunity in one direction or another. This is especially true if you're coming from a special unit or a special job or an exclusive unit, something like that. The special forces would apply, because as you get out, you're very much aware about your perception, how you're perceived by the older guys, the guys that have been out in the world for a while. I remember when I first started writing my first article that came out, I got some heat or criticism from some random former SF guy that was in a National Guard unit in California. And then I remember writing to one of my buddies and be like, dude, why are these dudes saying this? Why is he giving me a hard time about it? And it it affects you, and it restrains your latitude and the potential that you have, because you're too worried about what other people are thinking about you. And that's a normal thing, but it's amplified when you're coming from this world of everything you do and everything you say is being assessed. And eventually you got to realize that you're on your own. You're not in the military anymore. You're not in that environment anymore. So while it does still matter what you do and what you say, because your professional career could be impacted by it, it's just simply not the same, because you're not in that team environment anymore. So that took me a while to get used to. It took me, I don't know when the change happened, but at some point I just kind of stopped caring, and I don't put much time or energy into worrying about what the Special Forces community thinks about me, because I'm not really doing anything that's out in the public eye until recently. And now, I mean, I believe in the work that I'm doing. I believe in the Catalyst program especially, and I think the work is worth it, and at the end of the day, I believe it's valuable. So it doesn't really matter if some random Special Forces dude out and wherever is like, well, that Blake guy is a piece of garbage because he's doing whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. So eventually that part goes away, and that's a maturing process. And as you get to that point, then you kind of move to the next phase of your veteran transition, as I'm viewing it now and looking back at it in hindsight, because you're kind of stepping out on your own again in ways that you didn't. I know when I look back at it now, it's not something. I know I didn't realize this concept when I was just getting out, or when I wrote this article, because I still had that stress, and I was pulling up some of the conversations I had with other SF guys at the time about this specific article, and I can tell I cared much more then than I do now about what their opinion was of me as another SF soldier. And I think I've gotten to the point now where I don't quite look at myself as an SF soldier because it's been so long since I've been in that world. It's just, what I used to be, and, I was that in a former life. So I think that's one of the important things that I've gotten from looking back at this article is it was a maturity process of getting to this point now where I don't really look at it the same way as I used to. And it's changed my perspective on how I view myself, and I don't attach that label to myself as much anymore, and it opens more doors because you're less concerned about how your past will be perceived or how it will come back to haunt you or whatever, however you want to look at it. Another thing is there was a lot of if you go back to the original version, because I kind of cleaned this one up a little bit in the audios to make it more child friendly, I guess. But there was a lot more raw emotion in the original writing, and I think there might be some value in reading it from the raw version, but you might have a hard time finding it because it actually got memory hold, so you're going to have a hard time finding the original article. But I know it actually happened because, I got invited to a TED Talk, so hey, there's your proof. But ultimately, I think the most important thing in looking at this article now, in 7 years down the road, is the college experience was valuable because it brought me to where I am now. And working with the Catalyst program, there's a lot of different opportunities that have opened up at this point in my life that wouldn't have been possible had I not gone down that college path and not picked up some of the skill sets that I've picked up. And I think one of the, if I had to combine it all into, what components made the most valuable, it's taking your knowledge, combining that with the networking, and then being able to translate all of that into something that is valuable outside of the military. So you're taking the things that you know and you've done and you've experienced, and you're combining that with new knowledge that is valuable, specifically chosen for the outside world, the private sector, and then you're translating the two concepts into something that you can verbalize with other people, specifically people that can actually, hire you and put you in positions of, positions that are able to do something, and make your time worthwhile. So if you can translate all that stuff, then you're able to open doors that would otherwise remain closed. So learning that process and learning the differences between what's valuable and what's not valuable in the outside world, that's the underlying thesis about the Catalyst program. That's what kind of drives our operations on day to day. So I think if I had to wrap it all up in one pretty package with a bow on it, it would be that knowledge plus networking plus translation. That's what creates success for veterans once you get out, and picking up that maturity process along the way, which is only going to come through time and grinding down your ego to the point where who you are doesn't depend on who you used to be. You can put all that together. You can create for yourself a successful pathway, just like normal people did when they got out of college and got out of high school. The military doesn't have to be a burden that you just continually carry and show to everyone and say, look how damaged I am. And it's that damage, you paid for it, but there's a value to it. You just got to figure out how to translate it into something that other people find value in, and they see a worth in it. So I think that kind of sums up my thoughts, and what this all means to me and what I hope it will mean to the audience and what I can hope they can take away from it. So I think that'll do it for this week, this episode of the Boots to the Boardroom podcast, and kind of wrap it up here. But if anyone has any comments or suggestions or questions, feel free to reach out either in the comments below or shoot us an email at blake.miles@thecatalystprogram.org, and we'll get back with you. We've got our upcoming cohort with Indiana Wesleyan University coming up in July, mid-July, and we're looking for candidates. So if you're interested, please reach out. We've also got our cohort opening up at Southern Methodist University in the middle of August. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us as well. But that wraps it up for today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. If you'd like to learn more about the Catalyst program and possibly attend one of our classes, please visit us at thecatalystprogram.org. Or if you'd like to find out more about possibly being a guest on our show, you can email me at blake.miles@thecatalystprogram.org. Just let me know what you're all about, and we'll see what we can do.